You know, when you picture India's incredible monuments, you probably think of a purely Indian story, right? But what if I told you that some of their most iconic features were actually shaped by ideas from thousands of miles away? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden foreign influences in some of India's most famous structures. So let's start with a big question.
It's a fair question, isn't it? I mean, they seem like completely different worlds. But, as we're about to see, the answer is, well, a lot. The story of Indian architecture is actually deeply tangled up with these two ancient civilizations. To really get this, we've got to rewind the clock. See, India's architectural history wasn't built in a vacuum. It's this dynamic story of invasions, yeah? But also of cultural clashes, and, in the end, an incredible fusion that created a brand new architectural identity, literally changing the country's skyline forever.
And that right there, that's the crucial point. These foreign influences weren't just, tacked on. They were woven in, adapted, and blended with local traditions to create something completely new and totally unique. It really was a powerful cultural exchange, written in stone.
Okay, so let's start with the first major wave of influence, the Persians. Their arrival really marked the beginning of a whole new chapter in Indian construction. They brought ideas and materials that would define architecture there for centuries to come. So let's put this on a timeline. We're talking about a period from 520 all the way to 330 BCE. And rulers like Cyrus the Great and Darius the First, well, they weren't just conquerors. They were cultural importers who brought their architectural vision right along with them. And this was their single most important contribution. Before the Persians showed up, most of the big construction projects were done with wood or brick. They introduced the widespread use of stone, a material that allowed for buildings that were bigger, grander, and just permanent. It was a complete game changer. And this big shift led to what we now call the Indo-Persian style. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, a beautiful fusion. You take the engineering genius from Persia, things like arches and domes, and you combine them with the artistic styles and details of India. So what did this new style actually look like? Well, besides stone, the Persians brought two engineering marvels, the arch and the dome. All of a sudden, you could create these massive, open indoor spaces that weren't limited by how long a wooden beam could be. And to fill these grand new buildings, they brought this amazing tradition of intricate carvings and decorations, turning structures into true works of art. And here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you want to see this in action, just look at the Chaitya Hall at Karle. You see that magnificent vaulted ceiling? That is a direct legacy of the Persian arch, a technique that was brought over, adapted, and then perfected on Indian soil. Now, let's jump forward a bit. Just as the Persian influence was starting to fade, another major power arrived on the scene, the Greeks. And believe me, their arrival would once again completely transform the architectural landscape. Okay, remember this date, 327 BCE. This year is a huge turning point. This is when Alexander the Great invades the Indian subcontinent, and with his armies, he brings a massive wave of Greek or Hellenistic culture and artistic style. Now, what the Greeks brought to the table was totally different from the Persians. While the Persians focused on massive scale, the Greeks were masters of form and proportion. They introduced their famous columns, sure, but also a new, much more realistic way of doing sculpture and the core ideas of Hellenistic design. Things like balance, order, and symmetry. And just like with the Persian arch, we can literally see this influence carved into stone. The Pataliputra capital is a fantastic example. Its shape and style are unmistakably influenced by Greek column design. It's a perfect blend of a foreign form with local Indian craftsmanship. And listen, this wasn't just a fluke, not just in one or two buildings. The evidence is super clear on this. You can see the principles of Hellenistic style in decorations and designs on monuments all across the region, even on a monument as quintessentially Indian as the Great Stupa at Sanchi. So, when you put it all together, what do you get? Well, it's not a story of one style just replacing another. It's about a fusion, a layering of ideas over centuries that created this rich and complex architectural heritage that is absolutely unique in the world. I mean, this chart really breaks it down for us, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got the Persians, giving India the fundamental building blocks of stone, arches, and domes. On the other, the Greeks, introducing columns and a whole new aesthetic. Both left their permanent mark, and you can see it today in these incredible examples. And that, right there, is the real takeaway. This isn't just ancient history. The design language that was created by this fusion of Persian, Greek, and Indian ideas became foundational. It's a cultural heritage that architects and designers are still studying and drawing inspiration from today. So it kind of leaves you wondering, right? If a building we think we know so well can hold these incredible, hidden histories of cultural exchange, what other stories are just sitting there, encoded in the buildings, the art, and the objects we see every single day? What's waiting right in front of us, ready to be discovered?